Welcome to Bon MOTS, where we'll be applying the Manzer or mostly Thurlow scale of quantitative analysis of pop culture narrative to a binary system.
This podcast contains spoilers, mature content, and language. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hello, and welcome back to Bon MOTS. I am your host, Steve-O. Here, Steve Ormosi, joined by Rich Perry.
How you doing?
J. Ian Manzer.
Hello?
And Scott Thurlow.
What's up?
And we're here today to talk about the blockbuster Atomic Blonde, starring Charlize Theron.
Is it a blockbuster?
James McAvoy.
Go
yes.
on. All right.
A block was busted.
Several blocks were busted.
Fair enough. Wow. That is an amazing joke. Did you guys get that? Good one. Good stuff. Good lead off.
And I think we're going to kick it over to Scott with the funny log line for this movie.
Yeah, so I have a simple one. It's sort of a play on words or names. It's Atomic James Blonde. And that perhaps also encapsulates what happens in the movie itself.
A pretty good way to describe it, I think. And we're going to start off with you for intro, body, conclusion as well.
Which I shall talk about, yeah. So I'm going to outright say I'm probably going to give it a 2. I did enjoy it for the most part. And I can't really say anything specific. I like the opening setup. It's a spy thriller, to be clear. Sort of stylized, we were saying, John Wick-ish kind of. At least in terms of visuals and like the fights and so forth.
Yeah.
And I think it was based on a graphic novel, I believe, the plot. So it's 1989 in Berlin and a bunch of spies are doing spy thriller stuff, pretty much trying to find a knock list essentially as well, the undercover list or whatever. And it was nicely, it wasn't trying to be too clever, but I thought it was paced pretty well. I thought the writing was fine overall. And the plot carried me along well enough.
Yeah.
There was
It was basically the initial plot of, the first Mission Impossible movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Except done with fancy graphics and
so it
more absurd scenes.
Yeah, exactly. It felt like those kinds of movies, and I enjoyed it overall. It was solid, but I just don't think it deserves a full score, but I think I'll give it a very solid 2 for nothing specific wrong with it, but just enjoyable throughout at a medium pace.
Yeah.
Actually, the first Mission Impossible is a great one that I didn't think of, so thank you. But it's all of the problems I had with the first Mission Impossible kind of translate over to this as well, narrative-wise.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, is when I think of the great action movies like Die Hard, it's a very simple story. Someone's trying to rob something, and a guy is trying to stop them. John Wick, he's revenging his dog. It's like, this has what... I feel that since it's a Cold War thriller, they feel compelled to have a complex plot, but it's not really
all
complex.
that complex. Yeah, exactly.
So
I think because it's a spy movie, they feel like it has to be a complex plot. Or, it's taken from the comic, and I'm sure that was just as, if not more complex than this.
Sure. So they go about with doing, split time sequences, so you see the repercussions of actions before they actually happen, but not done necessarily as well as other works have done that. They also... the characters get information pertinent to the plot, but they delay the audience's knowledge of that till later in order to create more of a twist ending. There's a ton of red herrings in here.
Yeah, sure.
Both the Russian variety and not. And I think it's a good movie. It's done well. It's not particularly confusing, but they're trying to mislead you. But I've seen much better than this, so that's why I'm going to give it a 2. There's no real segment of it that didn't work for me.
Yeah,
it's just that they were trying to hide the deficiencies behind style, and that didn't particularly work all that as well as it could have.
Okay.
So what in particular you're taking a point off of?
Yes.
Your body or conclusion?
But the thing is, I don't think, and I kind of like the reason that we're combining all 3 now. So I would, if I had to assign it to 1, perhaps the body. But
yeah, I'm kind of on the same boat.
I think that the second half is really where this movie shines. When it starts getting to when the plot starts really rolling.
Yeah, it gets more streamlined.
Yeah, but the setup to it, because they have to obfuscate a lot, it doesn't really work as strong as I think it could.
I feel like it seemed like the characters had a bit of a complexity addiction. Because literally everybody was double crossing everybody else.
Because you're a spy and that's just what you do, I guess. Like, you know what I mean? But it seems
like nobody trusted each other.
Yeah.
And they even said that. They said the line, trust nobody. Like, a character says that too.
I mean, they mentioned that several times throughout the movie.
I'm just saying, like,
it was almost like pulling back the Russian dolls with the amount of, like...
Yeah. Sure, I get it. I mean, I agree with largely. It felt like, this is going to sound more insulting than I mean it to be, but it's almost like Spy Thriller 101. Like, it's a basic kind of ish script, but done pretty solidly is all I'm saying. I just don't think it deserves full credit. So that's why.
The style elevates it. But this isn't a discussion on style. This is a discussion on narrative. And the narrative is, as you said, a Spy 101.
I pretty much completely agree with that. And when we get to style, I'm going to have a lot to talk about. Because this movie was incredible in that regard. But
so what are you thinking?
I thought in the body, specifically, there were certain parts that could have been better done, especially plot-wise. And like... You kind of forget about that while you're watching the movie when the next scene is like an awesome fight scene and you're like, all right, well, fuck it, I don't care, you know? But like, yeah, definitely there were points where this could have picked up. I really enjoyed the intro. Not just the scene where where the other agent gets killed, which was an intriguing intro, but like the scene right before she goes into the deposition, where you just see her in an ice bath and she's fucking completely fucked up. And they do like this perfectly action movie scene, or you just see like the muscles on her back rippling and like it's all cast in like this dark blue light. And that kind of just showed what you, like, as in terms of narrative, I know it sounds like I'm getting into style there, but like what I thought that showed in terms of narrative was exactly what you were about to get into. Like, that foreshadowed every single cut that she was about to get throughout this entire movie, you know?
Sure. It's a great way of building tension.
Yeah.
You see the repercussions of an action, and now you're waiting for that action to happen. Mm-hmm. And that's the problem. It's a fault of this, too, because, yes, it's great for building tension in that way, but it's also, I think... It kind of shows what the director and the screenwriter were about here. It's about the action sequences. And we'll get into, like, there are some very, very impressive. Actually, we had to compare them to a lot of the Marvel and Netflix series, like Daredevil, like
specifically,
like hallway scenes, which they have a single shot over this battle in a stairwell later on. And granted, does it serve the narrative plot? Yes, but the point of this movie is to show like Charlize Theron whooping ass.
Yeah. And she does.
And that's the thing, is you're waiting for that to happen. From the first shot of the ice bath to when that fight happens, that's what you're waiting for. The plot is kind of in the way of what they want to do with this movie.
A little bit, yeah. And just to mention, I did enjoy the conclusion. There was there were several, like, unsatisfying twists, I guess. And then there was a fairly satisfying twist at the end, which I liked where they went with it, and the final scene with the Russians was pretty good.
I honestly thought they were just going to leave her set up as the villain.
Yeah, I don't know.
This is all red herrings.
Yeah, possibly could. Hey, she still could be.
Communism, as we all know, is just a.
But anyway, I'm going to give it a 2 as well.
Yes,
Rich, I don't think I got your score.
I think you guys might have convinced me. Like, what Ian said with the style pretty much elevated the movie past its narrative, but taking that out of the equation, there were some weaknesses in the middle.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying. I don't think it deserves a full 3, but a damn solid 2 is what I'll give it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. That's going to bring us on to themes with Ian.
Okay, so...
Here we go.
Take it away.
This is kind of going to be a meta, like, thematic discussion here.
Mm-hmm.
Because, and it's requires, I know a little bit of knowledge about Charlize Theron and the fact that she desires to become an action star. She wants to do a Furiosa, like, spin-off, and in a way, the theme is the glass ceiling. But the glass ceiling here is represented by the Berlin Wall. It is, but I think that's ultimately what in the intent, because she's one of the producers on this film, and she wants... generally when I find female action heroes, they fall into kind of two categories. You have like the elegance and with like Asian action stars or those using like kind of ballet techniques to go in, or you have kind of the Brienne of Tarths, which are or from the James Bond movie
Xenia,
yeah, where like she's just a brutal like fighter that can match any man physically. Charlize Theron was kind of a very rare mix, or a rare kind of middle ground for that, where she's very feminine in this, but she's also, when she fights, she doesn't have
she's tactical.
She's very tactical. She uses her environment quite a bit.
She went to the John Wick school of hand-to-hand combat fighting. That's what I'm going to say. But.
Yeah, she can take a punch and she can give a punch. And I felt like as she was a normal person in a situation, she was going up against some tough dudes.
Some bad dudes, if you will.
Who like people who would not stay dead. Yeah. And she was holding her own against multiple guys without like, she used a gun, but it was mostly her like tactics, as you said, Rich. And I think that's what really kind of, and I think this is this is a declaration that a woman can be an action star as well and hold her own as a lead role. And right after the scene is the scene when the Berlin Wall falls, right after the big action sequence that she has. She's recovering from that fight, and they're like, the Berlin Wall has fallen. And I'm like, I can see a little bit of symbolism here. And I didn't dislike it. I didn't think it was overdone or hitting over the head. It was just kind of a declaration that we now, like, there's now a female character who could stay with like Jason Statham or with Keanu Reeves as John Wick or any of those, and just actually hold her own. Yeah. And I think that's a very positive theme, and I like the way they handled it, and that's what I took out of this.
I would have thought she did that back in Mad Fury Road.
Yeah, but
I completely agree with that.
She started paving the road there. I would say
there's a. I think she does even better than hold her own in this, and as Furiosa and Fury Road. I think she's really set up, and if, like you said, you read an interview with her or something where she was saying that she wants to become the next action star, like big action star. She definitely can now if she wants to. This was a great movie that had, all the standard action movie
elements.
Yeah.
We'll say many of them, at least.
But with, like, its own style. And, like, she definitely had that, like, elegance, but all the fight scenes were brutal. It never felt like it was easy for her to win a fight. The entire movie. But, somehow she always just managed to kick that ass.
There's another thing I picked up as well, like, in her demeanor. Like, she was on top of things, but at the same time acknowledge the fact that she didn't have all the pieces to put together.
Right.
So she was very careful in her actions and how she approached things.
I think
it was always like, you could always see her like constantly looking over her shoulder, just be like, all right, something might happen.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, as a spy, I think that's what you got to do.
Well, good. I was saying, all that's very interesting, and I don't disagree with any of it. But is it a theme in the movie? Is what I'm saying.
I think that's what they were going for, and the Berlin Wall, I don't think was just.
There's no accident. Yeah, I understand.
Like, and I think that was the intent of what they were going for, to really like have it as an established female action hero, or at least
maybe.
And I think that is like something that can be viewed as a theme. If you disagree with it, then
I think that's
I don't disagree with the raising the glass ceiling by all means. I'm just saying if within the narrative, in my mind, I don't know how much weight I should give it because, as you said, it's more of a meta commentary. Yes, a positive one, and sure. We can all agree that that's a good move, but the plot of the film itself, I don't know if it addresses that thing per se. Is all I'm saying here. Like you had a long discussion. You basically just talked about protagonists, but not to me themes so much.
All right, but we also talked earlier on about how the narrative was less important than the stylistic elements.
Sure.
To this film,
it's the same.
And I think that the theme applied to the stylistic elements is stronger than necessarily. What are they saying about the Cold War? I don't think they're saying anything about the Cold War.
Absolutely nothing about the Cold War.
That's what I mean. Like,
well, that's the point, or that's what they. It's not that they're saying nothing about the Cold War. They're certainly saying things about how East and West Germany were, like, just before the fall of the wall, and
But it's specifically made a backdrop.
Right. It's the movie says we're not talking about the Cold War, and then proceeds to do so throughout the movie, like somewhat, give like small little insights into what's going on in those, because you can't set a movie there without saying something about it, you know? Now, granted, it's not the most realistic, I'm sure, depiction of what was going on in between East and West Germany.
Maybe.
And this frickin', there's just Russians murdering secret agents all over the fucking place. But
that very well could be what happened.
They certainly did say something about this movie did have a theme of British, German, Russian, American relations
and French.
Oh, there were some good relations there. Yeah.
Thank you.
But yeah, I mean, I think there's certainly something to be said in themes about the kind of how much of a quagmire that whole situation was, and like what was going on there, and like how many people had how many governments had their hands in that pie.
Sure.
Stuff like that.
If you want to have a theme, this is kind of going into characters again, though, but it directly addresses one character. You have James McAvoy as Percival, who is a spy for the British government, but he's also
He's Kurtz in Berlin.
In a way, but he's established his own fiefdom, which I guess, yes, he went Kurtz, within Berlin, where he, like, in a sense, reigns supreme. He has resources from both sides. He's playing both sides, but he's not doing it. He's not a double agent for either of them. He's working for himself and being a useful tool for both sides. And I think part of his desire to get the list is not only to increase his own power, but to keep the status quo. That when the Berlin Wall fell, his empire fell, and he lost his role there. So, like, and they bring up the prince quite a bit with him.
Yeah,
and his Machiavellian techniques. And so you could definitely say that there is a lot thematically to the situation, like how certain people within Berlin would not want to have seen the wall fall because they had lost their influence.
I would love to see. I'm actually very glad you brought up Machiavelli, because I meant to mention that earlier. It kind of slipped my mind until you said it. That theme with him, I thought, was one of the strongest in the movie, and I think they did it really well with the way that he operated. I would love to see a freeze frame on his bookshelf that you see right in the beginning, actually, and go back and look and see what he has in there, because I guarantee there's some Easter eggs slipped in there that, just didn't notice or whatever.
I can see that. No, that's cool. Like, listen, I'm probably going to give themes a 1. I'm just saying, like, at the outset. But I agree with the largest extent of what you guys just said all about it. And I would just add that I kind of would like to see this, to read the source material now to see, like,
how much of it transfers.
Yeah, exactly. Like, how much, is Lorraine as strong of a character in the GN, or is she like less? I forget
what it's called. It's called like the Coldest Night or something like that.
The Coldest City, I believe.
Oh yeah, the Coldest City.
And I don't know when it came out.
It's
older.
I think it's fairly old at this point. It's by a guy named Anthony Johnston.
Yeah.
Johnston. I think, who has done some other really good stuff. So which I have read. So I'm excited. I want to get my hands on this and check it out.
I'm going to give the movie a 1 for themes. Yes. Because of everything you said, mostly the latter stuff. But I appreciate, again, the intent of your original thesis. That's how I come down on it.
I think,
but I was going to maybe give it a 0 going into it, is all.
Give it a 1 as well.
1.
All right, 1's all around. And that's going to bring us to antagonists. And Rich, take it away.
That was a tough one. So we were talking about this precast on who the antagonist possibly was. McAvoy was thrown around, but I don't really see him as an antagonist so much as somebody just trying to make his own way.
He's a cog in the spy machine.
So I think it's I think I'm going to go.
But he's not. He removes himself from that machine,
and then he becomes we're getting to him.
Sorry.
I think I'm gonna go and try to spread this one over the not the government, just the spy game in general.
The great game.
The great game, yeah. Because you have, and this is mentioned multiple times, you have a bunch of people that have no idea who to trust. Their lives are basically no longer their own or anyone else's. And they're these lost souls just wandering around trying to figure out what side they're on, if there is a good fight, and am I doing the right thing?
Or just trying to survive in general.
Yeah.
Which, like, I like the contrast between Lorraine and Delphine, where she was, like, wet behind the ears. This was, like, her first year in the business, and she was already in over her head and thinking how much of a mistake this was. She's like, I thought this was going to be fun and adventurous, and this is terrible.
Yeah.
What was very interesting to me, I probably should have brought this up in themes, and you just kind of sparked that in my head. There's a bar scene where they start playing the music from Casablanca.
Yeah, I noticed that.
And she looks over, and they don't really mention it again.
Yeah,
which is kind of nice.
I was waiting for that in style, but yes.
That goes to the, like, in Casablanca, while you had there was a good and evil there. I mean, with the Nazis, you always kind of have that. The idea is the Russians, which would always were antagonists in this too, because just from the fact that Charlize Theron is a British officer or a spy, but every other thing you don't know that trust factor that goes into it. The French intelligence officer who becomes her lover, not necessarily all on the up and up either. They're keeping information from each other. They're having their own games to play. Sure. James McAvoy, who in any other situation would have ended up her lover and then betrayed her, this one is a friendly rival turned
rogue,
antagonist at a point. Yeah. So you're absolutely right about that. It's the paranoia of the game.
No, I like that very much as a protagonist, as antagonist, because it's abstract enough, and I think, but very applicable to it, because you're right. We did toss around McAvoy's character a little bit, but I don't think it's actually that.
Let's think about this. No one that they showed had any idea what was going on.
Yeah, well, they had
except
some idea,
for maybe John Goodman was the only one that had an idea.
Of course,
the CIA always knows, dude. But no, I mean, I think you're right, and also look what you said to start off with. Kind of, we can lump somewhat back into themes as well, and make it even stronger, like with him becoming his own little empire and just working the game for himself, no longer really tied to any government or any other entity aside from himself.
Like, I love the speech he gave seconds before his death. It was just like, who won? Yeah, that's the question.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, you're right about that. So yeah, I'm going to give antagonist a 1 because of that. I like the way you set it up.
I will as well, because I think every single character is
antagonized by
every other character.
Yeah.
If you decided to follow any one of those characters and make them have the camera follow them, everybody would be against them.
The paranoia is still there, regardless of which one it is. Sure,
that's well said. So I was actually on the fence on this one, but I think I'm going to end up giving it a 1.
Nice.
Because because. There was pretty good tension in this movie throughout, and you kind of never knew where the next shoe was going to drop from, where or when.
Well, the problem, just to go back quickly, we were talking about red herrings. One of the issues with having red herrings is that you need these herrings to antagonize the protagonist in order to make them reasonable threats.
Seem like red herrings, yes,
of course. That lends the credence to the whole, the spy game itself.
Yeah.
Sure, no,
absolutely.
I agree. Yep.
All right, so I think that's
good one.
One's all around for antagonists, and that's going to bring us to protagonist with me, and that's Lorraine. I forget what her name.
Not Lorraine Bracco, but something
Broughton.
Sure.
Lorraine Broughton. Charlize Theron, as I probably
James Blonde.
Call her from now on. The Atomic Blonde. And I thought she did a phenomenal job. Acting this, and I thought her character was written very well, and she brings a lot of charisma to the role as well. So I mean, I don't have too much to say about it. I thought she did a great job.
Yeah,
I thought she brought a lot more depth to to a spy character than I've seen in many other movies.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Because like James Bond, the be all end all spy. It's just, he's kind of one note. He just walks in.
Bond.
James Bond. Walks in, kills a bunch of people, and walks away with the win.
Yep.
Like her, you could see and I like that they didn't dwell too much on her relationship with James, was his name? That was killed in the beginning?
The guy, who was in the movie for 3 seconds.
Yeah. It's she hid very well, her true feelings for him and whatever relationship they had. And you really got a sense of her internal struggle with the nature of this beast she's dealing with.
Absolutely.
No, I agree. I don't have much. But I don't have much more to say about it. Yeah, I thought she did a great job. Charlize was fantastic in it. Like I said, her part was written well as well. That's why I'm interested to compare it to the original source material, which I may do. But in the film itself, she was a great, believable, enjoyable action spy hero.
Mm-hmm.
I also particularly like the element of deception that they added in there. And then upon retrospect, looking at her interactions with people, knowing what the twists are in this film, to see what, like, where the lies held up. And, again, like, it was a little bit more than what you might get out of a similar type movie.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm going to give it a 1.
And hopefully everybody knows by now that if you don't want spoilers, don't listen to these podcasts. But one of the things that I really liked about that, like, thinking back about the movie after it was over, was that she was drinking Stoli the entire time, the Russian vodka.
Yes.
And
I noticed that myself.
Supposed to be, like, the Russian double agent. So, like, there are just little things like that, little details like that were slipped in throughout that added to the character and just made her believable in terms of that role and really enjoyable to watch.
Yeah, strong 1 from me.
One.
Atomic 1.
One's all around?
Yes.
One's all around. All right, sounds good. We're going to move on to supporting characters with Scott.
All right, yeah, so we brought up, I mean, if you count her, of course, as protagonist, that means almost everyone else, the other spies on either side, whatever side they may be. But I think McAvoy also brought a lot to this film in his role. So he's definitely my 1 outright. But I enjoyed Goodman's part was not small, but not huge either.
Right.
And I thought he did a fine job. I thought her other contact, the young German kid who sort of like rallying
did really good.
Rallying the disaffected youth in Berlin and helping them like great fake passports and helping them smuggle the defector guy. Who I thought was also pretty good, like solid as well.
Yeah.
Although he wasn't in it as much.
Spyglass.
Russell Crowe was in this film for like 10 minutes as well as a KGB hatchet man, I believe they described him as, and he was fine.
Wait, really?
Yeah. I believe that was him.
Was it?
I'm pretty
I
sure.
didn't recognize the guy with the giant beard?
Yes.
I did not recognize him at all.
I'm pretty sure it's him because he was like, I could have sworn he was tagged to be in this film.
Okay.
They look a lot like him to me with a beard. If it's not him, sure. But if it's not Russell, he still did a good job. If it was Russell, he did a fine job too. And yeah, I mean, there's not that many. It's all like them. Delphine, I thought was pretty solid too. So it's all their interactions, right? So kind of the web of relationships between them is like its own secondary character. But I'm going to give McAvoy 1 and everything else a pretty strong 1 as well.
McAvoy was having a lot of fun with this film.
Yeah.
and without him in this film playing that character the way he did, it would have been a much worse
Would have been
film.
lesser, for sure.
Because in a sense, Charlize Theron played the straight woman in this, where McAvoy was off playing a agent of chaos in a way, or enjoying ruling over his fiefdom, like stabbing people in the back, and loving every moment of it. So he really carried a lot of this movie there.
Yeah,
Not saying that
agree.
Charlize Theron didn't. It's just that he was a necessary agent in this.
Yeah.
I mean, if in somebody else's hands, I don't think it was a character that should not have had as much weight as it did.
Exactly.
And I think it's hands down because of him.
I agree.
Yeah, well, I agree with all that. I'm not going to say much more about McAvoy because we've already said most of it.
McAvoy, awesome.
I really liked the German kid who made her the papers and stuff. I thought he did a really good job. I always like John Goodman. Her boss in MI6 or whatever, I forget what his name is.
C?
But
Or the little
Toby
not
Jones.
C, yeah, Toby Jones. Whatever that guy's name was.
Am I Toby
what that
Jones?
character's name was that Toby Jones played. I enjoy him a lot in a lot of things, and I'm glad that he's getting more work. I thought he did a great job. And, all the characters that you mentioned, Scott, everybody was solid in this. I don't think there was one character I could point at and be like, that could have been a lot better.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, if there was, and they were quickly killed off.
Yeah, that's true too.
Even the Russian hit squad
Russian
was pretty good.
The hit squad of Boris the Blades from Snatch. These people,
the Boris Blade division.
They refuse to die.
So, like, when I saw the trailers for this movie, I just assumed that she was fighting an endless swarm of Russian soldiers, but it's actually the same 5 that just would not fucking die.
Exactly. And the movie even comments upon that. I think we'll say about that in style, but nevertheless, she
It's
did
like the only mooks she ever fights are maybe like the 5 cops that showed up.
Yeah.
A very unlucky couple of them got like just shot in the head right away, and you know,
Sure.
those were the actors that weren't as good. They didn't do as well in the
Screen
auditions.
Well, anyway.
But yeah, I think so. It sounds like we're all giving it a 1,
Yeah.
right, for supporting.
Yep.
Sounds good. That's going to bring us to dialogue with Ian.
The dialogue in this movie was completely unmemorable.
I don't know about that. Go on, though.
I wouldn't say that, but
You go on.
Well, then I'm going to leave it to you guys. Because I don't remember. I looked when I got dialogue, and I'm like, wait, I don't remember any of it. So please enlighten me.
I mean, I don't have
You
any
first.
specific quotes
I do.
in mind, other than Reagan on TV in the beginning. But
Nope.
I wouldn't call that
That's a good
dialogue.
opener.
per
I
se.
kind of want to go off the point that he made. It wasn't so much, for me personally, that the dialogue was forgettable. It's that it was so integral to what was going on in the story. But at the same time, it's like all pretty much like technical jargon. Almost. It's like a bunch
Spy
of
jargon, yeah.
spy jargon. Like you're beating around the bush to get to the next scene.
I understand.
Well, I don't know. I thought there were some really
I
good
see what you mean, at
tense
least.
dialogue scenes between Charlize Theron and James McAvoy.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought the whole like seduction between her and
Delphine.
was really good.
Good or really good? Because I have to say, like, now that you mention this thing, it's like, okay, you're right. You do make some points that some of the dialogue is good, but I don't know if anything is elevated above, like, just
the stuff
what this
they need to
movie
be saying.
is.
Yeah. Sure, I see what you mean. Go on, Steve, and I'll speak
I think a lot of the tension in this movie, which I think is really important to the film, is down to the dialogue, especially the scenes between her and McAvoy. Like I said, I like the seduction scenes. I thought that the banter between them was good, and when actually I do remember a quote when she's in bed and she's like, "Your eyes change when you
tell the truth."
Yeah. And she's like, "Well, I got to make sure not to do that anymore." I thought that part was good. And a lot of the dialogue gets played back again later because everyone's taping everything at all times. So, like, I think that's a good use of, going back through the movie and, like, making sure that the audience realizes what was going on in that scene of dialogue.
Actually, the big plot twist at the end, she actually hands them over tape to frame, in a sense, McAvoy, by cutting up a lot of the
Previous
dialogue that was said earlier.
Yeah.
So, yes, you're right. That's a neat little feature there.
I'll tell you this. Hasselhoff's in town, and Berlin is truly doomed.
I love that line.
I do have to say, I love also McAvoy's speech at the end. I wish I could remember the whole thing.
Yeah, but no, it was quality, too.
And with the benefit of hindsight, all of the interactions that she had with John Goodman.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
right.
Because
Really?
because they go over it, with that line, like at the end, would you realize that the entire time that they've been interacting, they've been playing
Yeah, exactly.
British intelligence.
To the cocksucker line. When I heard it in the movie, I'm like, it felt out of place to me. It felt like, why is this line in here? And then have it come back and like, oh, they're actually drawing attention to it earlier on, and then
Sure, they lampshaded it.
Yeah.
thing later. Yeah, so you guys might have convinced me.
Yeah, like, I'm not saying it's amazing, but I think it does its job well enough, and some of the lines were, like I said, the little jokes like that one, and the speeches, like, the serious stuff, and the stuff with Delphine and James Bond.
Plus, if you can use the dialogue in a movie as a weapon,
Yeah.
to end the movie,
It's pretty good, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna give it a solid 1. I sort of was debating it, but as we talked out, I think I was convinced, and I think it deserves a 1 at this point.
All right. So it sounds like we're all giving it 1s. Rich, tell us about style.
loved it.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
It was
Slick.
It was very slick. It had that John Wick feel, but like it played up the 80s without it being overbearingly 80s.
Yes.
I mean, the soundtrack that they used you'll get most of the songs. A lot of them were either different versions or
Not covers, but
Yeah.
Like you said, they had a German
German version of Major Tom.
Yeah, of Space Oddity. So yeah,
And like that, and the of course the action is fantastic. I like how they didn't use any quick cuts, so you get to see all of the fighting.
Yeah.
Let's see, a lot of tracking, or a lot of one shot takes.
Yeah, like I said, like, so
Lighting, of course.
everything you said, and if we hadn't mentioned it, it was directed by one of the guys who directed the first John Wick. So that's why I sort of feel like his style is all over this movie because if you've seen it before, it's sort of recognizable, and I quite like it. And like you said, the soundtrack was excellent without being like 80s in your face all the time. Like it fit, like, even if it didn't seem like it was going to fit, it did. Like we were discussing precast, they used, the German 99 no laugh balloons, like was playing when like something dramatically downer was happening. So like, yeah, it was all good. And like the fights, of course, were standout, like the set pieces.
Actually, you know what? I just realized they used it twice for like what was supposed to be.
Yes, that's right.
Emotionally charged scenes, like when he's pretty much about to beat that one breakdancer to death.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're right about that. So yeah, I mean, it's all like damn solid and looks really cool. And it's like graphic novel style. You know?
They changed. Yes, that I was just about to bring that up. Like some of the shots were they were like kind of blocked off in certain ways. So the main shot was like through an angle, or off a reflection,
exactly,
instead of just having a shot straight on. Yeah,
so it's damn solid, damn quality. Probably one of the easiest ones to give a 1 for this.
So I want to talk about the fight scenes for a moment, which I already had brought up previously. But I'm actually interested in seeing what the body count in this is, because I don't think it's as high as
it seems. As you think it is.
Well, when you fight the same 5 guys that never die, you can't count them as dead.
And so there's the scene when she's escaping the apartment when the police are coming in, using a hose or a rope or something like that.
Looked like an extension cord.
Yeah.
To take out the cops without killing any of them. It was a very well done fight scene. But the extraction of spyglass from the moment they left and are walking down the parade to the river is a masterpiece of like, because it's like they have the parade sequence, which had a wonderful like the twist that I didn't see coming in there. What they use for cover there. They have the amazing fight scene in the stairwell, and then they have the car chase. And I thought all constructed that's well worth the price of this movie. Yeah, seeing that particular scene.
And the car chase did not get drawn out nearly as long as I thought it was going to.
No, and that's what I kind of liked about it. Like it's that sort of like, again, I can't remember his name, but his mark is all over this movie because of things like that, and it just is well done. Looks cool overall.
Yeah.
Use of colors, I would say. You were saying when she's the ice bath and it's all like soft blue lighting.
And when she's with Delphine for the first time, you get the soft red.
Yeah.
I was actually just going to talk about that.
Well, there you go.
But like it happens throughout the movie. You can tell that very special attention was paid to how this was lit and the colors that were used in it. The other thing I was going to mention is that, like, while I only saw the first John Wick, so I haven't seen the second one yet, but this film felt like grittier than the first John Wick. It felt like
I see what you mean.
It felt like John Wick made it way easier and like smoother, whereas this was like this felt like
it's
how combat should feel, like hand-to-hand combat with somebody who's like on your level should feel. I think
John Wick has that elegance I was talking about before, where this
which is in here, there is that elegance in here as well. But this,
I see what you mean. It's a little bit different, yeah.
The fights felt easy in John Wick, at least in the first one, whereas the fights feel very difficult in this movie. There's even a point where she's in the middle of fighting one of the Russian guys, and like they're both just falling over before they can even reach each other.
They're suffering from severe concussions,
exhausted.
And that's what we said. The Daredevil kind of fight stuff, but yeah, it all looked really great, and everything about it. Style, I think, deserves a pretty strong 1. At least I'm giving it.
I completely agree. Along with everything else that you guys mentioned, it's a fantastic movie, style-wise.
I just want to bring up one last part about this, is the sexuality in this. Mm-hmm. Which Charlize Theron... It surprised me the first scene you see her in the ice bath. Because it's... Yeah, she's naked in there, but it's not...
It's not
sexualized.
Right.
It's just very kind of, like... pragmatic, her recovering from her wounds. And oftentimes, yes, she's wearing kind of like a lingerie or an
type
outfit
stuff, sure.
But aside from the scene with the with her Bond girl, It's mostly just like they don't even. It's kind of like they don't take into account her sex in a way.
Well, I mean, I think it's exactly those scenes that you would have with a guy like wandering around in his boxers at the end of the night in like a hotel room,
sure.
who is the star of an action movie, and I think that's exactly what they wanted to do, and they did it really well. Like, yeah, Charlize Theron is sexy as hell, but like those scenes aren't
focusing
sexual
on that. Yeah,
you know, like
no, I'm with you,
and that's the entire thing. It's. I thought it was great how they did that.
Yeah, I agree.
How they kind of took that out of the equation. It wasn't like, oh, now you gotta like prance around in your underwear for all the guys who are watching. You know, you do what you do, do your spy work at night when you're sitting at a desk. Just because you're wandering around in your underwear doesn't mean you're not a spy anymore, you know?
Yes, and I guess I have one more thing. I'll just add it here. Maybe back in secondary, but I did appreciate the amount of smoking and drinking that was happening.
Yeah.
By everybody, especially McAvoy,
Constantly
though.
drinking and smoking.
I love how when he
that is not the way to be a spy, I would guess, though. I don't think you're supposed to just drink constantly.
I think she was doing that just to get rid of the pain.
He was no longer a spy. He was reigning in his own little Kurtz kingdom.
Well, Charlize Theron was doing it, too.
All I'm saying, like, every time that happened, and it happened often, I was like, God damn it, now I want a cigarette. But anyway,
I love the scene when he breaks in and she like brings him down on the bed and like he's trying to hit on her and she just takes his cigarette and finishes it off.
Yeah,
it was good stuff. So, yeah, a lot of great stuff for style on all fronts.
Very good, very good. I'm going to give it a 1. It's a pretty strong one for style. In fact, probably the strongest one for style. And it's going to bring us to recommendation with me. You may have heard me for the last 40 minutes or whatever gushing about this movie. Go watch it. Check it out. It's definitely well worth the $12 or whatever, or get it when it comes out on DVD.
It's worth seeing whether or not you get it
on streaming or something.
Sure.
Wait until it comes out on Netflix.
You cheap bastard.
But yeah, it's well worth the watch. Definitely a good time. A really fun action movie, and I'll watch action movies with Charlize Theron forever now.
True. This is actually going down the road of the new action films now.
Yeah,
it was like
that's what I was going to say. Go ahead. Yeah,
like it's got the signature style. It's got a complex character who actually has like legit motives and is not just in there to be in an action movie.
Yeah,
and I'm excited for if this is the future of the genre, and I would definitely see another one if they decide to come out with a sequel.
Yeah.
And I hope one of the Russians comes back from that hit crew, if not two.
I really enjoyed this movie. Again, it's not without its flaws, but Richie, I think you said perfectly. This is a great action movie. I really like Charlize Theron in these movies, and I'm looking forward. I'm going to actually follow her career more closely now to see what our follow-ups to this would be. It's like Keanu Reeves also has this kind of renaissance going on of action films.
Yeah.
And I kind of hope that since it's the same director, they have a connection, that perhaps that will cross paths in the future.
Maybe they're in the same universe.
Well, if they are, it's like 30 years on from Atomic Blonde.
She'll be very old when they meet up.
Maybe, but I mean that'd be cool. I mean, I agree. Yes, if there's indeed a start of Charlize as a like cemented like high level a top level action star, that'd be great. That's awesome. And I agree with you, Rich. I can sort of see, and yes, maybe because of the connection with the John Wick director and then blah blah blah. But the genre I think is coming to a point that's sort of finding its voice for the modern age, and not the 80s, the actual 80s 90s like ridiculous cheesy shit. Yeah. Like this shit is hardcore in a great way. And yeah, I would see this movie again. And it'd be really cool if somehow they got some crazy like crossover sequel, or whatever, like John Wick, Atomic John Wick, or whatever.
Just have Keanu Reeves be the bad guy in the next movie.
Yeah, or what would be great is if they like just a cameo, like they cross paths in each other's movies, but they're not like part of each other's movies. You know what I mean?
You know what? They've never really established how old John is.
Yeah,
so he might as well have just been Keanu Reeves.
Sure.
In '89.
Sure, exactly. But anyway, yeah, I definitely recommend it. Check out Atomic Blonde. It was quite good, very enjoyable. Awesome action movie just to sit back and enjoy, and it's also a bit more complex than you might think.
Yeah. All right.
What do we got then? So what does that give us?
I think that's going to do it. That is going to give us 9s across the board.
Mm-hmm. All right. Yeah, I think
all
that's
9s.
Goddamn solid.
I think it's close to a 9 movie, if not a 9 movie, at least in my eyes. I could see...
Well, in your eyes, it is literally a 9 movie.
being taken off otherwise.
Sure.
By other people, but I think for me, it's... I think that's a pretty good score.
But I think because of the kind of introduction of what I consider the first female action hero. I know others have existed beforehand, but this kind of like brawler type character, I think it deserves to get perhaps a nudge up above an 8 or so.
Yeah. I hear you. Like I said, going into this, I think I was going to give it an 8, and you guys convinced me here and there to push some over into 1s, and yeah, overall,
all right,
still damn worth it.
Yep.
Check it out.
All right, well, I think that's going to do it for us. Go watch Atomic Blonde. I've been your host, Steve Ramosi, joined by Rich Perry.
Yep.
Jonathan Ian Manzer.
Nowhere near Berlin.
And Scott Thurlow.
Ich bin ein Berliner. Good night.
Have a good night.
Editing and engineering by Christopher Morgan. Music by Christopher Morgan. Check us out on YouTube and iTunes for the shows, and on Facebook and Twitter for updates.